Sri Gurupya Namaha. This is Lakshmi from Ponvidyashram. Welcome you all to this class. Today I am going to continue the chapter The Delhi Sultan. In previous chapter we discussed how the Delhi became an important capital city, how we got the information about the Delhi Sultans, that is the sources through which got the information about the Delhi Sultans, and from garrison town to empire, the expansion of the Delhi Sultans. Now, in this class, let us see about the masjid, that is, the mosque built during the Delhi Sultan period. During this period, number of mosques or masjid were built. Let us see some of the major one. The first important one is Quwat of Islam Mosque. This was built in 12th century. This was congregational mosque. It means all people collect together for the prayer. The most expected person reads out the namaz, and this respected member is known as the imam. Then this mosque was further enlarged by the Iltutmish and Khalji. The minas were built by Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish and Feroza Tughlaq. Next is Behampuri Mosque, built by Muhammad Tughlaq, and it was the main mosque of Jahanpana. It is known as Sanitary of the World in its new capital of Delhi. Then Motki Masjid. This was built by Sekandar Lodi. Then Mosque of Jamali Kamali, built in the late 1520. The expected person delivered the sermon. It was known as Khutbah on Friday prayer. Prayers is always done by facing Mecca. When they face Mecca from India, it would be towards the west, and this is known as Qibla. The idea was to spread the religions to all over the country. So they built several mosques were built across the India, and to have a kind of community feeling that could be existed. Now move on to the rulers of Delhi. Delhi was ruled by 5 dynasties. After Chauhan rulers, Delhi was ruled by the early Turkish rulers, also called as the slave dynasty. Under the slave dynasty, Delhi was ruled by the 4 rulers: 1. Qutbuddin Aibak, Shamsuddin Iltutmish, Razia, and Ghiyasuddin Balbi. The Turkish rulers were ruling from 1206 to 1290. Then started by Khalji dynasties. Under the Khalji dynasty, there were two powerful rulers ruling between 1290 to 1320. They were Jalaluddin Khalji and Alauddin Khalji. After Khalji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty were started ruling between 1320 to 1414 under the ruler of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad Tughlaq, Feroza Tughlaq. Next was Sayyid dynasty. In Sayyid dynasty, the powerful ruler was Qiz Khan, ruled during 1414 to 1451. And then Lodi dynasty started. In this, the powerful ruler was Bahlul Lodi, ruled between 1451 to 1526. Now, I am going to explain about all these dynasties. First, the slave dynasty. The rulers of this dynasty were called slaves or Mamluk sultans. Actually, Mamluk in Arabic means own. Iltutmish and Balban were slaves of Qutbuddin Aibak, who himself was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. Qutbuddin Aibak. The first ruler of the dynasty was Qutbuddin Aibak. Muhammad Ghori had left him in charge of the territories he had conquered in Delhi. After Ghori's death, Qutbuddin became to rule as an independent ruler. Qutbuddin was a kind-hearted and generous man. He was called Lak Baksh or giver of lakhs. because he gave away a lot of wealth as charity. Next slave dynasty ruler was Samsuddin Iltutmish. Qutbuddin was succeeded by Iltutmish. He is considered the real founder of the Sultanates. He expanded his empire up to Bengal. Iltutmish had many sons but considered none capable enough of being his successor. So he decided to make his daughter Razia the Sultan of Delhi. Next, Razia Sultan. Razia's reign was short and full of problems. The nobles opposed her because they hated taking orders from a woman. They did not like Razia for taking decisions without consulting them. So they plotted and deposed her in 1240. Soon afterwards, she died. After the death of Razia, many rulers were ruling under the slave dynasty, but they were not a powerful rulers. There was a puppet in the hands of powerful nobles. Next ruler was Ghiasuddin Balban. Balban was the most powerful ruler of the slave dynasty. He had been an important noble since the reign of Iltutmish and was the real power behind Nasiruddin Muhammad. Balban reorganized and strengthened the army. He fought against the local rulers and defeated many of them. He also guarded the northwestern boundaries against Mongol raids. Balban's successors were weak. In 1290, the Khalji nobles captured the throne of Delhi. The Khalji sultans ruled for 3 decades. They expanded and consolidated the Sultan further. Under Khalji dynasty, Jalaluddin Khalji was a weak ruler and Alauddin Khalji was a powerful ruler. Then Tughlaq dynasty. The Tughlaq dynasty ruled for close to 100 years. It produces two powerful sultans, Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Feroz Shah Tughlaq. A closer look of Khalji and Tughlaq dynasty. From aristocrats to Bandahan. Earlier, from centuries, we have seen kings favoring their relatives, friends to take over the position which are powerful in the kingdom. But for the first time, the Delhi Sultanate ruler were not given a priority to the aristocrats. It was the slaves who have given priority in top official appointment. Delhi Sultanate, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves under their rule. Bandahan means a special slaves who has his birth origin at the humble in the beginning and later elevated to the higher position. In Persian, Bandahan means a special slaves. The Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use Bandahan and also raised people of humble birth who were often their clients. Clients means someone who is under the protection of another, a dependent or hanger on. The king trusted mostly the slaves than their own sons. If the question comes whether they believe the son or slaves, they said slaves only. Like this, they gave special importance to slaves. They will be loyal to the king. This was initially started by Iltutmish and later followed by other rulers. This was created a political instability among the people. How was political instability created? We just discussed the slaves were loyal to the king. Then, how it brings political instability? Actually, the slaves are loyal to the king who appointed them, not to the highest, who have power after the king. If king had a son after his father's death, if he take over the kingdoms, the slaves who are appointed by his father are not loyal to the king. The slaves destroy the kingdom and also they attack the kings. Some are very good followers to the father but not to the son. Some are very good followers to the son but not to the father. So, this creates conflicts between old and new nobility. This creates a political instability in the kingdom. So, they gave preference to the low and base born people to high offices, which was criticized by many of the scholars at that time. Now, let us see the administration under Khaljis and Tughlaq dynasties. The entire kingdom is divided into Ikta. The in charge of the Ikta is Iktadas or Mukti. Mukti's main duty is to collect the revenue, maintain the law and order in the region, and also pay the salaries to soldiers who are allotted to them. They pay the salaries from the revenues. In order to check the Iktadas and Muktis, there was an accountant appointed by the authority of kingdom to check how much of the revenue are they collected, or they are collecting the revenue imposed by the government only or not, or they collecting more. In case if he collects more or not paying salaries to soldiers on time, they will be punished severely during the reign of Alauddin Khalji. They made a control, if necessary, in a short period of time. They used to transfer from one region to another region. So, in this period, the work will not be given according to hereditary, that is, after the father, the son in that position. If the person is capable, he will be appointed for that work. Once the kings emerged to be powerful during the reign of Khaljis or Tughlaq dynasties, they forced the Samantas, the ruling aristocrats and rich landlords, to follow the rules prescribed by the king. If anyone tried to deviate them, they were punished very strictly. Next, coming to the collection of revenue or taxes. How the taxes are collected? The taxes are collected in three types. First, they have to pay 50% of they produce, that is kharaj. Second, on cattle. Third, on houses. Lands are surveyed and taxes are fixed, and then taxes are collected. Now, the areas which was far from the Delhi Sultanate slowly and gradually started to become independent. Next, Sayyids and Lodi dynasty coming up. Most of the territory became independent. Meanwhile, before Sayyids and Lodis, we had Mongols coming. Then you have difference between the Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq's administration and about Mongols, that we will see in the next part of the video. Now, I am going to read from the text. Page number 36. The Masjid. A mosque is called a masjid in Arabic, literally a place where a Muslim prostrates in reverence to Allah. In a congregational mosque, Masjid-i-Jami or Jama Masjid, Muslims read their prayers, namaz, together. Members of the congregation choose the most respected learned male as their leaders, imam, for the rituals of prayers. He also delivers the sermon, that is khutbah, during the Friday prayer. During prayer, Muslims stand facing Mecca. In India, this is to the west. This is called the Qibla. The Delhi Sultans built several mosques in cities all over the subcontinent. These demonstrated their claims to be protectors of Islam and Muslims. Mosques also helped to create the sense of a community of believers who shared a belief system and a code of conduct. It was necessary to reinforce this idea of a community because Muslims came from a variety of backgrounds. A closer look: administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and Tughlaqs. The consolidation of the kingdom as vast as the Delhi Sultanate needed reliable governors and administrators. Rather than appointing aristocrats and landed chieftains as governors, the early Delhi Sultans, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves purchased for military service called bandagan in Persian. They were carefully trained to man some of the most important political offices in the kingdom. Since they were totally dependent upon their master, the Sultan could trust and rely upon them. Slaves rather than sons. The sultans were advised a slave whom one has brought up and promoted must be looked after for its needs and whole lifetime and good luck to find a worthy and experienced slave. Wise men have said that a worthy and experienced slave is better than a son. The Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use Bandagan and also raised people of humble birth who were often their clients to high political positions. Clients means someone who is under the protection of another, a dependent of hanger on. They were appointed as generals and governors. However, this also introduced an element of political instability. Slaves and clients were loyal to their masters and patrons, but not to their heirs. New sultans had their own servants. As a result, the accession of a new monarch often saw conflicts between the old and the new nobility. The patronage of these humble people by the Delhi sultans are shocked many elites and the authors of Persians, Tuareg criticized the Delhi sultans for appointing the low and base-born to high offices. Officers of Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq. Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq appointed Aziz Kumar, a wine distiller, Feroz Hajam, a barber, Manka Tabak, a cook, and two gardeners, Lada and Pira, to high administrative posts. Siasuddin Barani, a mid 14th century chronicler, reported their appointment as a sign of Sultan's loss of political judgment and his incapacity to rule. Like the earlier sultans, the Khalji and Tughlaq monarchs appointed military commanders as governors of territories of varying sizes. These lands were called Ikta and their holder was called Ikta Das or Mukti. The duty of the Muktis was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their iktas. In exchange of their military services, the Muktis collected the revenues of their assignments as salary. They also paid their soldiers from these revenues. Control over Muktis was most effective if their office was not inheritable and if they were assigned iktas for a short period of time before being shifted. These harsh conditions of service were rigorously imposed during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq. Accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue collected by the Muktis. Care was taken that the Mukti collected only the taxes prescribed by the state and that he kept the required number of soldiers. As the Delhi sultans brought the hinterland of the cities under their control, they forced the landed chieftains, the Samanta aristocrats, and rich landlords to accept their authority. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. The rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled and they were also forced to pay taxes. The Sultan's administrators measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of the old chieftains and landlords served the Sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. There were three types of taxes. Number one, on cultivation called kharaj and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce. Number two, on cattle, and number three, on houses. It is important to remember that large parts of the subcontinent remained outside the control of the Delhi sultans. It was difficult to control distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi and soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent. Even in the Gangetic plain, there were forested areas that Sultanate forces could not penetrate. Local chieftains established their rule in these regions. Sometimes rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control in these areas but only for a short duration. Then we have about Mongols and Alauddin Khalji's Muhammad Tughlaq's administration's differences that we will see in the next part of the video. Thank you.